Who's to blame for the record-breaking flooding that's being seen in the riverbanks of the Yamuna? Delhi hasn't seen these kind of floods in the last 5 decades. Are greedy citizens to blame who encroached on the riverbank, or are netas to blame who chose to look the other way because of vote bank politics? What happens from here? The problems of silting, illegal construction, all of which ensures that the water comes out much more than it did in the past. To talk about this and more, I'm joined on this broadcast by one of the chief spokespersons of the Aam Aadmi Party, Jasmine Shah. Harish Khuranna represents the Delhi BJP. Mudit Agarwal is a spokesperson of the Congress, and Manu Bhatnagar is a well-known urban environmental planner. I want to go across to Harish Khuranna first, because Harish bhai, आम आदमी पार्टी कह रही है कि हरियाणा की सरकार ने बिना सोचे समझे बगैर ठीक से वार्निंग दिए हथनी कुंड बैराज का जो पानी है वो एकदम से शॉर्ट नोटिस पे रिलीज कर दिया, जिसकी वजह से Delhi has been caught off guard, which is why all these citizens, I'm currently in an area where a lot of people who used to stay on the flood banks, they've now been pushed out. They're having to stay here tonight out in the open because the allegation is your Haryana government did not give the capital enough notice. How do you respond to this, Harish Khuranna?
Rahul, unfortunately, Delhi is in a sad state today. When I say this, there is reason behind it. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has let us down. If you see the press conference of Arvind Kejriwal on 10th, you can clearly see you can clearly see the clipping of 5 minutes 50 seconds to 7 minutes 50 seconds. 7 minutes 50 seconds, where he clearly said कि हथनी कुंड से पानी छोड़ा गया है, but don't panic it because Delhi government is aware of it. And in 1917, when the flood came, there was 9 lakh cubic water. That's the reason flood came in 1978. 2018, the flood didn't came at 207 level because that time the cubic level was 7 lakh today, 7 lakh cubic water. But today, 3 lakh cubic water has been released and 208 odd meters have been crossed. The simple reason is this: you have not done a desilting in Yamuna. You have not done a desilting your MCD protected area. Till last year, you used to blame it. MCD has done nothing, but today the MCD belongs to you. So you are not done anything. I still remember when Hathni Kund water was being released in 1993-94. Also, my father was the chief minister at that time. He used to go overnight over there and evacuate the people and give them the food over there. But where is my chief minister Delhi? He stays 200-300 meters from there only, not very far off. But Chief Minister has no time to visit the relief camps. Has he visited any of them? No. He has not visited even a single relief camp till date. Only he has done what? Just tweeting it, just doing a press conference. That's it. His duty is over after press conferences and doing a Twitter only.
Okay. Let me put that question to Jasmine Shah, who works closely with the Chief Minister of Delhi. The charge against the Aam Aadmi Party is, now you're also in charge of the MCD, so you literally have nobody to blame. There hasn't been enough desilting in the Yamuna. Delhi wasn't prepared. More money being spent on advertising than it is on keeping the capital ready for an eventuality like this, which is why behind where I am right now and going all the way till my eye can see, there are people who've been put up in these temporary makeshift tents. They're out in the open because the capital and the government in the capital, Jasmine Shah, wasn't prepared for what was coming from this river.
Rahul, let me first start by just reading out what I received on a WhatsApp, a few minutes back. भाजपा की सुने तो दिल्ली में बाढ़ के लिए केजरीवाल जिम्मेदार है, पर हरियाणा, हिमाचल, उत्तर प्रदेश में बाढ़ के लिए बारिश जिम्मेदार है. And this is precisely the confusion that my friend Harish Khuranna is going through. Let's accept first that there has been an unusual, unprecedented climate event. 208.6 meters is the level of Yamuna, which is broken a 45-year-old record, which means it's the highest in our recorded history. Okay. Now, the situation in Delhi 3 days back was very different, Rahul. That was the time when Delhi received extraordinary rain, 153 mm in 24 hours, which has never happened. And that is the reason for 2 days we saw the kind of scenes that we saw. But for the last 3 days, Rahul, there has been very little rain in Delhi. It's actually been not raining at all. But the Yamuna is over flooding, and it's broken all record of the last 100 years. Now, whose responsibility is to make sure that Delhi is ready and Delhi is prepared for this? It is only the central government and the Central Water Commission that issues alerts to all states. Tell me, has the Central Water Commission given a single alert saying that a 100-year record is going to be broken? And how many hours before did they give any such information? Till date, neither the Central Water Commission nor any other official or minister of the central government knows how much of water should Delhi be prepared for. And then you say that Delhi CM is not doing anything. I am glad today that it is Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal who is in power in Delhi, because mind you, last time in 1978 when Delhi saw similar scenes, lives were lost. Habitations across Delhi were devastated. Thankfully, today we are seeing no such scenes. Obviously, it's a huge disruption. Tomorrow and the next 3 days, schools, colleges are going to be shut. But government has acted in time. The Chief Minister, ministers, MLAs, everybody is in ground. On one side, the centre and the LG want to control Delhi. They've passed an ordinance by which they want to call all the shots in Delhi. Tell me one central government minister or LG who has been going in the streets since morning. Only and only Aam Aadmi Party ministers, CM himself has been on the ground. All the MLAs are on ground. So please stop fooling the people of Delhi. Please stop fooling the people of India. You have utterly failed in making sure that the water that is discharged from Haryana is regulated in a well-coordinated manner. And 208.6 meter is the record. Yamuna was never, I mean, the danger zone, Rahul, is 205 meters. So we're already 3 meters above. And even today, there is no communication from the Central Water Commission कि ये पानी कब नीचे जाएगा. So you want Delhi and Delhi government to be Atmanirbhar. We are going to be Atmanirbhar. We are responsible for the people of Delhi. But please work together with Delhi government. Don't do dirty politics 24/7. Come with us. Let's solve the problem as to why is it that we are not able to coordinate and make sure that the water discharge
We are hearing
into Yamuna
from the state government and the central government quite predictably. We're seeing this this political back and forth. You are to blame, they are to blame. As a dispassionate environmentalist, who do you think is really to blame? It is true that Delhi has seen unprecedented rainfall, but it is also true that the system at different sources of government. Nobody had the idea that suddenly we will see the worst flooding in the last 50 years. Who's to blame, Manu Bhattacharya?
Well, I would not like to get into the blame game of the politicians, but I would just like to lay out the technicalities of it. You see, to colonize lands around the river, two major embankments have been built, the left main embankment and the right main embankment. Now, this has jacketed the river. Lot of water has fallen in a very short period of time, and when you prevent the water from expanding horizontally, then it's bound to expand vertically. And when it expands vertically, then all the drains which are feeding into the river, your major stormwater drains like Najafgarh, Barapula, they cannot discharge their water into the river because the wall of water in the river prevents, it's higher in fact than your drains. So that water is locked into the city. Fortunately, it has not rained in the last 2 days in Delhi. Otherwise, we would be in a very bad situation. So this is a problem which has been building up for a very long time, and there's no shortcut about it. Rains are going to happen and extreme events are going to happen. The amount of water which has been released this time is only 300,000 cusecs. In 2019, 8,28,000 cusecs was being released. In 2013, 8,08,000 cusecs were being released. But they did not cause the same kind of problem. Is it possible that the river bed has risen because of the amount of silt which has settled there? So far, till date, I have not heard of anybody talking about desilting of the river. Now, if you look inside the river, you will see there are a lot of
So let me put that question to Jasmine Shah. Because if 8 lakh and 9 lakh cusecs of water get released, and it doesn't lead to this kind of flooding, then very obviously more and more sand has collected within the river, which means the moment more water comes from Haryana, instead of being able to stay within the river, it rises and it comes out, which is why all these people are having to stay out on the road tonight. Which essentially means that desilting, which should have been done by your government, which should have been done by the MCD, hasn't been done, which is why these citizens are having to pay, which is why their houses have been lost, their cattle, I saw several cattle in the water completely astray, people crying ki 1.5 lakh ki buffalo hai, isko kuch madad karo, iski madad karo, and no one was there to help. I mean, the NDRF did try and help to the extent that they could, but a lot of this is happening because there hasn't been enough desilting. How do you respond to the point made by the environmentalist, Mr. Jasmine Shah?
Rahul, I know this might sound like another round of pointing fingers at each other, but that is what unfortunately the central government and the Modi government has made Delhi to be, a complete governance mess. DDA, officially it is the Delhi Development Authority that has the command of the entire Yamuna area and the flood banks. That is the reason they are also doing Yamuna pedestrian pathways and many other development around this thing comes under the scope of DDA. Just until last week, you might recall, Rahul, in fact, few days back, an NGT had appointed a committee, made LG the boss for all activities related to the Yamuna. It was Delhi government that said that this is not possible for LG, an unelected person who has no accountability towards the people of Delhi, to be calling the shots on Yamuna. Finally, after many months, just 2 or 3 days back, the Supreme Court put a stay on LG as the head of the committee. So which means until now, it was the LG and the central government calling the shots. You ask us about Najafgarh drain, all the major drains of Delhi come under us. But when it comes to Yamuna, it is DDA, the center and the LG who are solely responsible for the mess that we are seeing Delhi today in.
Let Mudit Agarwal of the Congress respond, because on the one side we are seeing the BJP blame the Aam Aadmi Party government very predictably. We're seeing the Aam Aadmi Party blame the BJP, and the citizens in the capital now caught in this vicious fight between the centre and the state, neither taking responsibility, both blaming each other, and it's the poor citizens who are having to pay with their lives, with their belongings, being forced to be out in the cold, out in the open, out far away from their homes.
You are right, Rahul Kadal. So, see, I always see man is helpless in front of nature's fury, but it's also a fact sometimes man uses excuses of nature's fury to hide their own incompetence. So this is exactly what is happening in Delhi. Look at Kejriwal government. I mean, just go 2 days back. There were incessant rain in Delhi, and you know what happened. Most of the colonies were waterlogged. Whenever it happens, whenever it rains in Delhi, even for a couple of hours, there are huge traffic snarls, and traffic almost moves at a snail pace. There's been a constant thing which is happening for last 4, 5, 6 years. So what has Kejriwal government done to improve cities' infrastructure? You see, this flooding is also a part of that infrastructure only. What has Delhi government done for sewer infrastructure in Delhi? Have they upgraded it over 9 years? The answer is no. What happens about drenching of rivers? Not happen. Desilting of drains does not happen. So, you know, any parameter that you look at, there's been absolutely no upgradation in Delhi's infrastructure, and this is the result. What all they look for is, you know, when it rains a couple of times, their traffic
Let Jasmine Shah respond to what you're saying, that the infrastructure upgradation isn't keeping pace. And what you have to say to everyone who's watching and everyone massively concerned about the level at which water has been rising in the Yamuna, what is your action plan over the next 48 hours, Mr. Jasmine Shah? Apart from praying to God and hoping for the best, what does the AAP government intend to do now?
Rahul, first let me give a very quick response to the Congress spokesperson who is just blatantly lying that there is absolutely no work that has happened in the past few years.
What work has happened?
Every person in Delhi would recall that please, I didn't interrupt you, I will respond to you. I didn't
don't use such strong words of lying.
For years after years,
every time you would
see that whenever...
Don't use those words, please.
No, you are lying,
don't
so
use
I have
those
to
words
call your lie, and I'll tell you
no,
why.
Don't use those words. The biggest liar is Mr. Kejriwal in Delhi. Kindly do not use those words.
Rahul, this is no way to have a
Kindly do not use those words.
Please keep ranting.
No, kindly have a civil debate. Do not use those words. Kindly do not
Okay, one at a time. I can't have both guests speaking at the same time. Let Jasmine Shah complete. I'll go back to you, Mudit, in just a moment. Jasmine Shah.
I was exposing the lives of the Congress spokesperson by giving one example. The classic picture of Delhi going underwater is when the Minto underbridge, very close to the Connaught Place, would always be flooded during the monsoon. But for the last 3 or 4 years, you have never seen that sight. Even 3 days back, when we had this historic, 153 has never happened in the last 40 years in Delhi. You saw even the Minto bridge was underwater only for half an hour, Rahul. So there is a lot of work. Hotspots have been identified. Infrastructure is being upgraded. But yes, 153 of water has broken a 40-year record. And it's a very clear sign that a lot more work needs to be done, and we are committed to doing that. But let us also remember that center has a responsibility when it comes to Yamuna. If at the end of the day Delhi can prepare for what is happening within Delhi, if you're non-stop, if you're going to make sure that water is being released into Yamuna, you're not going to give any advance warning to Delhi, then forget Delhi. You see today the pictures of Noida. Noida is completely flooded. All the floodplains around Yamuna in Noida are flooded. UP is flooded. And that's only and only because center today refuses to take any responsibility. If there is a crisis in Manipur, Mr. Modi is silent. If there is a flooding happening in Yamuna and in the capital city where everything near Yamuna floodplains is flooded, there is no communication, there is no messaging. And I think that is the problem. We have to fix where the problem is. Of course, Mr. Kejriwal will do whatever needs to be done or to be done. Right now, we are committed to making sure that not a single life is lost, and we provide relief and rehabilitation to everybody affected. But the good news that we have heard from in the last couple of hours is that
Manu Bhattnagar,
Yamuna will start.
what's your
and hopefully things will be better.
Rahul, you have to give me a word in.
Manu, what's your sense of what needs to be done in the immediate short term, over the next 48 to 72 hours, in the medium term, and then in a longer time frame to ensure that A, you are able to deal with the current crisis, and B, you don't end up with a crisis of this nature again? Manu.
Rahul, I don't think we can do anything more in the next 3 hours. We can only hope that the rainfall in the mountains, begins to decline, so that the water reaching to Delhi also comes down. But what can be done in the shorter term is, there are 3 things which Delhi can do locally. Actually, the problem has 2 parts. One is what happens in the upper catchment, and one is what happens in Delhi. Now, we can look at, making more lakes, cleaning up our lakes so that flood moderation can happen within Delhi. That is one thing, because out of our 1,000 water bodies, we now have only 400. One. Secondly, we have to have a lot of pumping installations at the mouth of our drainage system, because when the water in the river becomes high, you are closing the mouths of all your drains, which prevents them from emptying into the river. That means there's a backflow within the city. At that time, you need a lot of pumping. Okay. Third thing is that we need to de-seal the pavements of the city, because the absorption of water into the soil is not happening. Much more surface runoff is being generated, because everywhere we are paving, concretizing. So these are 3 things we can do in the short term. In the longer term, I think the Central Water Commission, which is really, in charge of our rivers, must look at the river channel and its cross sections to see where the sandbars have built up, where the desilting is required. Then perhaps we may be able to deal with these issues better. But I think we also need to have a longer term understanding of how the extreme events are building up in the upper catchment and how they are going to flow down. Regarding the release from Hatni Kund, I don't think Haryana can prevent. It's not a storage structure. It is just a barrage for diversion of the water into the left and right canals. It cannot hold any water. When such amounts of water come, you have to release them into the river, because releasing them into the east and west Yamuna canal, that's a very, very limited option. You can't do much more. So this is a longer term thing. It has built up over decades.
Okay.
It requires some time to deal with it.
I think the most important thing you're saying is, don't forget this crisis once the water eases. And once life is back to normal, if we continue to silt the river in the way that it is, without desilting it adequately, without adequate dredging, this will happen again. Because of climate change, more and more extreme weather conditions are being seen. everyone, the central government, the Central Water Commission, the Delhi government, citizens need to work in concert. And I hope that's the message that's going out to the AAP, to the BJP and to everyone who's watching. Otherwise, we'll just end up in this kind of a mess again. I want to thank our guests for joining us.